Hello, good morning everyone. Welcome to our assembly for today, and as we share this term we're looking at the theme of justice, and it's lovely to be sharing with you, hopefully all in your classrooms. Today is also St Patrick's Day, which St Patrick's the patron saint of Ireland, and for any of you who've got Irish family or you come from Ireland yourself, a very happy St Patrick's Day as we share together. More about St Patrick a bit later on. Let's look at having our opening prayer together, and this is where, if you have a candle at home or candle in your classroom, then obviously do this with an adult, maybe your class teacher or your class learning assistant will help you. And we light a candle, as always, to remember that we're in the presence of God as we share our assemblies together. And then when you feel able, maybe you'd like to join in this prayer with me. Lord Jesus, as we meet together today for worship, please be with us. Give us light, give us hope, give us patience, give us joy, give us courage to try to do the right thing, even if it's hard or if it seems to others not to matter. Amen. So let's look at this whole idea of a bigger vision as we look at justice together. And I want to tell you a story about labels. Now, labels are often things we think we have in our shirts or other parts of our clothing. But labels are often words that we give to people, and we form those words because there's something that stands out about them, often visually or because of what they've done or whatever. Sometimes they can be labels that other people give to them, and sometimes they can be labels that people give to themselves. And they become something that so easily defines who we are. We think of so-and-so and we give them a label, and we do it so quickly, whether that be people on the television who are really famous, or our class friends, our teachers, or ourselves, whoever it may be. Here's two wonderful labels. The first is of Lamela. He's the gentleman who plays for Tottenham, who scored this incredible goal on Saturday where he kicked the ball behind his leg and somehow scored a goal in the process. How he did it, we don't know. But he's renowned for being a footballer, and so it'd be easy to give him the label amazing footballer. Here's also Beyonce, who won the Grammy Awards this week. She collected the first person ever to collect 28 Grammy Awards. She gained 4 of them this week. Incredible. And it'd be easy to label Beyonce as an amazing singer. We easily apply labels to one another. Here's some more labels. Labels maybe we apply to ourselves when we say things like, I can't possibly do it. We come to a piece of work that the teacher has set for us and we go, oh, I can't do it, or even I won't do it. And sometimes that can be a label associated with fear that's inside. We feel we just haven't got the ability to do it, or we haven't got the will or the strength to do it. It can even strangely make us angry. We rebel against it, and rather than trying to find ways through solving that particular piece of work, we become angry and we kick off, whether at home or in the classroom, and we get labelled as a difficult child or whatever, or a fearful child. So labels come in many different ways. Labelling people is not new. We go right the way back in the stories of the Bible, and we discover amongst many of them a wonderful story about when Jesus came to see somebody called Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was labelled as a tax collector. Some of your family may work for the tax collecting people, and you say, well, there's nothing wrong with that. They go to work, they work in an office, they come home, they help collect the taxes for our nation so that we can have schools and hospitals, etc. But in Jesus' day, a tax collector was a really not good label. Tax collectors in Jesus' day were seen as people who not only collected the taxes for the king and for the Roman Empire, but also they collected and put quite a bit of money in their own pockets. In other words, for every pound they collected as a tax, they kept half of it for themselves and gave half of it to the government, the king. And bit by bit, these people became very wealthy. I suppose the closest thing we have in our modern culture is like the bully on the playground, intimidating others, making others do what they feel they had to do. And then there's this particular day. By this time in Jesus' life, he'd become quite a famous celebrity and teacher. And what happened was he came to this place where Zacchaeus lived. And Zacchaeus hid up a tree while the crowd were all around. Why did he hide up a tree? Well, maybe he hid up the tree so that he could see better, but maybe he also hid up the tree because he was fearful of all the other people who lived in the town called Jericho at the time. So he wanted to keep out the way because he knew that if there was a crowd, they may not like him and they may turn on him. For whatever reason, Zacchaeus was up a tree. And when Jesus came and he met the crowd, of all the people in that crowd, he looked up in the tree and he saw Zacchaeus. And he said to Zacchaeus, "Come down, Zacchaeus. I want to come and have tea at your house tonight." Well, Zacchaeus couldn't believe it. Zacchaeus thought he was an outsider. He thought he was the person that nobody would ever come to have tea with. And yet, this was the celebrity Jesus, the footballer, the famous singer, whoever you want to picture Jesus as, wanting amongst everybody else to come to your house. And when they had a conversation, Zacchaeus was so moved by what Jesus saw in him that actually Zacchaeus came out in front of all the crowd and he said, "I'm really sorry. I've really messed up. I've taken so much from you. Please have it all back, and not just have it all back, but have it back 4 times over." Never been done before. Incredible. But not just that Zacchaeus gave all his money away that he got from collecting the taxes and keeping most of it for himself. It was the fact that he discovered he could become a new person deep inside. This seems to be a common thing about Jesus. He seems to have this way of seeing. If we take some of the famous stories that we maybe know, Peter, Jesus' famous disciple and friend, was labelled as a fisherman. But Jesus saw more than simply a fisherman. He saw Peter as a person who had great heart and great courage. Mary Magdalene, my goodness me, how the church over the years has got the understanding of Mary Magdalene quite wrong. The more we found out about the place where she came from, a place called Magdala, the more we found that she was a very different sort of person, an incredibly strong woman who wanted to follow Jesus against all the obstacles that were in her way at the time. She was the first woman ever to go out on the road with Jesus, with a rabbi, and she got labelled in so many ways, not positively for that. And yet now we're only discovering, and they've just recently made a film about her, trying to write this story of who Mary Magdalene is. Nicodemus, the great teacher. It's easy to see somebody as simply the person who must know everything, and yet he comes to Jesus in the night time and wants to find out more, and Jesus sees more in Nicodemus. And then there's the lady at the well, the Samaritan lady, who had so many labels placed upon her and indeed upon herself, and yet Jesus saw what an incredible person she was. And of course, that way of seeing is what Jesus sees in each of us, not just 2,000 years ago, but today. Jesus sees who Lamala is, not just as a footballer, but he sees Lamala as a person before he was a footballer. somebody who's more than a footballer? To his family, to his friends, is he kind? Is he caring? Is he thoughtful? Is he generous? Does he forgive easily? The same with Beyonce. We maybe see her as a famous singer, but what is she like at home? Does she think about other members of her family, or does she sit there thinking everybody's there to serve her? And of course, within each of us, those labels that we apply to ourselves, when we think of ourselves as being somebody who is fearful, somebody who can't do something, somebody who maybe is angry a lot of the time, can we believe that Jesus sees beyond our own labels, deep within each of us? This is what it means to see the whole picture, to see beyond labels, to see somebody as more than simply what we immediately think of them as. There's a little word that really helps us with labels and to see this bigger picture and beyond simply what we first of all think. And that's the word "and." It's actually been in all these slides that we've gone through so far. I've even highlighted it, and you may have not seen it until now I mention it. Can we always think not only about who that person is, whether it be a friend in the class, our teacher, what we think about our teacher, what we think about our family, our parents, whatever is going on for us, the labels that we apply to ourselves, can we always say, and what? What can Jesus see in this person? What can Jesus see in myself that maybe I can't see? Because there's always more of a story to be told. Take all that and we come to St. Patrick's Day. Now, St. Patrick lived 1500 years ago. He's known in Ireland today as the person who brought the Christian faith as a Christian leader to Ireland and transformed that country at that time. And he's celebrated throughout the world today. And we maybe see him with his bishop's staff in his hand and his mitre and as a leader. What Jesus saw in Patrick was a shepherd boy, someone who learnt who God was, who he was, not in necessarily a classroom, but in the fields. Learnt about what it means to be opening your heart both to yourself and to God, and know that beyond all the labels you are loved. And this is a powerful thing. It can be the same as a musician perhaps learning to sing in their bedroom before ever they end up on a stage in front of hundreds of thousands of people. Or it can be a famous, like a footballer, learning to kick a ball about in the back garden way before they end up in a football stadium and on the television. We are often in these times when we're on our own, strangely free of many of our labels, and indeed allow ourselves maybe the possibility of being loved. Loved by God, loved by ourselves, loved by the world around us. Seeing is a wonderful thing. It's so easy though to reduce our field of vision down simply to the label that we apply either to others or to ourselves. And when we think about justice, often we have to ask ourselves a bigger question, not just what do we see, but can we ask the word and see more of their story as well. We're going to close with a little blessing. It's called the Irish blessing, so it's a different blessing than we normally have today, but I thought, given it was St. Patrick's Day, it would be lovely to share these words together. And it was a blessing that people would say to each other as they set out on a journey, and as they left, the person of the house would pray that blessing over the traveller, and the traveller would pray that blessing over the home and the person that lived there. So let's share these words together as we seek to be a blessing to each other today and to see a bigger picture. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. and the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the very palm of his hand. Amen. Amen. Given that it's St. Patrick's Day and we celebrate a lot of things to do with the Irish culture today, I couldn't resist the opportunity to have as a song for today one of the songs by Wren Collective. It's called Be Thou My Vision. It's picking up this idea of seeing, but also it was a famous story about Jesus being the king. When Patrick went to Ireland, he met a king who thought he was the most important person in the land. But actually Patrick helped him to see a bigger story and a bigger picture, that he was just a shepherd boy, and actually he became also a king. So I hope you enjoy that as we share together. Have a good rest of the day. God bless. Bye bye. Bye bye.